Okay, this is the Bill and Burt show. This one on the future scenario lens. So let's jump right in. Bill, good morning.
Am I supposed to be seeing what you're recording, or am I supposed to be looking at your screen?
You should be looking at my screen if and then react to me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, let's first define some terms. What do we mean? We have a couple of lenses that you discuss in your vision: a rainbow lens, and I believe an ABC lens, and a future scenario lens. What exactly do you mean by lenses?
Well, the purpose of this dialogue, the purpose of these videos is to help leaders and change champions, change masters in existing systems, existing organizations begin to see their organizations, see their human systems through different lenses, to be able to see the new paradigm. You remember the old lady, young lady picture where you look at it with one set of eyes, you see the young lady, and then eventually you see the old lady, but you can only see one of the other. And so it is with this paradigm shift. We're used to thinking of our organizations as mechanistic systems, the perfect organization being a smooth running machine. But in reality, our organizations are living systems, and we are cells in the system. And we are connected with each other just as the cells in our body are connected. And so these lenses are designed to give us a vocabulary that helps us see and discuss what these living systems, what our human organisms, our human systems can become when we treat them as living systems.
Okay. So in future discussions, we're going to examine these different lenses. Today, our topic is going to be the future scenario lens. So once again, let's define terms. What are we talking about here, Bill?
Well, if you look at the picture, what I've done is attempted to map possible futures. So in the picture, the vertical axis really has to do with measuring the well-being of all life on our planet. All life, from bacteria to elephants and sequoia trees.
Mm-hmm.
The line that curves down suggests that over recent decades and the last century, that we have been using up life on our planet. We have been degrading life. We're experiencing an extinction rate that is the greatest that we've seen in the last 65 some million years.
Right. The sixth extinction is going on.
Right. And so the rainbow colors from red to orange to yellow to green and blue represent possible future scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
So the red zone is kind of the toxic, and we're looking here at what is the quality of our human systems, our organizations, our cities, our governments, our institutions. What is their collective effectiveness relative to their contribution to the well-being of life? So the red zone is kind of the systems that are toxic. And we all know of such organizations or such parts of the world. The orange zone has to do with well, let me jump to the yellow zone, which really is as good as it gets with our systems treated as machines, and with the kind of mechanistic way of thinking about our organizations, where organizations are based on control over people with a fairly narrow definition of success. Like businesses, many businesses have as their primary objective being the best at something and basically making lots of money. And governments, frequently the politicians, their primary definition of success is to keep getting reelected. And so we have these narrow definitions of success. And the yellow zone is about as good as it gets with the mechanistic model of organizations, because it treats people as being separate from each other, systems being separate from each other, nations being separate, and all of the human systems being separate from nature. And as a consequence, even when they are incrementally trying to improve, we're still sliding downhill, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
The green and blue zones describe a different paradigm, a paradigm where we're thinking of our organizations as living systems that are capable of becoming ever more conscious and ever more effective in contributing to the well-being of all life, all their stakeholders, customers, co-creators, all the people, the employees and suppliers, partners and the like, the earth, all of life on the earth, community, what's the health contribution to the health of the community, not how much are you giving to charity, but how much is your system really contributing to the community being healthy in every respect? And finally, the investors. So in the blue zone, all parts of the organization become increasingly conscious of their ability to contribute to the well-being, to maximize their contribution to the well-being of all of those stakeholders. So it's a conscious, caring kind of system as distinct from a smooth-running, efficient, effective machine. Okay. So the bottom line here is that we are currently on a path that has a little bit of green. Some systems are green, but not very many throughout the planet. There's a lot that are in the yellow zone. Some are in the orange zone, some are in the red zone. But if we stay with business as usual and only look at incrementally improving it, we're ultimately destined to kill off life.
Yes. Yes.
And the problem there is that can potentially become kind of a set of cascading catastrophes, if you will, where global warming can affect climate change, which affects migration of people, which disrupts governments, which increases poverty, which increases violence and dissatisfaction and terrorism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these man-made global crises are potentially multiplicative. So we're on a slippery slope. And the purpose of this is to recognize that business as usual is not a recipe for coming out of the current situation that we're in, but also to say that we're destined to evolve our human systems. Our human systems are, as we've talked about before, are very very young and not very mature. And we have the potential not only to become quite mature in our human systems, but to transcend anything that we're currently able to imagine.
I read something recently, Bill, that just chilled me to my marrow. And this was a comment by a young man who is a fervent believer in global warming and climate change. His heart is in the right place, and yet he made the statement that let's only save animals that are of use to us. And it kind of put me in a tailspin. It said, how do we get this across if even the people who get it don't really get it? How do we overcome the prevailing mindset?
Is that a rhetorical question, or would you like me to address it?
I'd like you to, you don't have to provide an answer, just your thoughts or anything.
Yeah,
Please.
So we have people who are looking at individual global crises such as global warming. And so they're beginning to problem solve and some, as you point out, are kind of taking a triage approach. Okay, so we're going to have disaster. So who should we save? And your concern had to do with people say, well, let's make sure we save the useful animals. And that is chilling, because basically what it reflects is a notion that everything is separate from everything.
Yes.
And so the key here is for our systems to begin to see themselves, our human systems, to begin to see themselves as conscious living systems that exist in a living, in a collection of living ecosystems, and that everything is interdependent with everything, and that the higher level animals, including us, are dependent upon the health and well-being of all of those smaller organisms that constitute life on the planet. So without the bacteria in our body, we would die very, very quickly. And similarly, without the health of our soil and our water and our air, we are in serious trouble. So the key to me has to do with a movement, an evolutionary shift where we make the leap from thinking of organizations as machines, to begin to see them as having the infinite potential to contribute not only to the well-being of existing life, but to contribute to future evolution of all life.
Okay, excellent answer. Thanks. So how do you see this playing out? Would we farm differently? Would we live in different types of houses? How do we live in an environment that promotes the well-being of all life?
Well, I think there is. What will it look like in a future where we're contributing to the well-being of all life?
Yes.
We're already seeing a lot of exploration, pioneering, experimenting about how we might move in that direction. And so from the standpoint of living conditions, I think you are seeing a migration toward more and more localization. In other words, the efficacy of buying local, of raising more and more of your food as individual families or in small communities or in commons areas, of creating fulfilling work, at the community level to minimize transportation. So those are trends that have begun already, but they really haven't made much headway against the massive development throughout the globe in the traditional old school definition of development. So the key, I think, is in the human systems, that this trend won't become widespread until the government, education systems, other institutions, businesses, et cetera, begin to take responsibility for their contribution. We're tremendously influenced by our educational systems, by our business systems, by our government, et cetera, and they pretty much all reinforce a separatist, a fragmented, reductionist way of looking at life on the planet. So the key is, how do you help those systems develop their capacity to become, to maximize their contribution to the well-being of life? Mm-hmm. Because basically that's essential to their being able to sustain themselves, much less to thrive in a very turbulent future.
Mm-hmm. And in his book, Beyond Civilization, Daniel Quinn talked about the need to walk away from the predominant mindset and structure and kind of form your own tribe and either work on a barter system or its own little a little pirate civilization, that operates by its own rules and its own norms. And so I'm listening to what you're saying closely, and I'm seeing a local, a town like mine, Gainesville, which is 100,000 people, half of which are students at the University of Florida, and I'm seeing stores where I can't buy grapes from Chile in the winter because there's no trucks to bring them in, and the price is good. So I'm depending on local produce, either stuff that I raise on my own property or local farmers do it. And I'm looking for perhaps a system where I barter something that you need and you give me something I need, or I give you time. There was, I believe, several communities had time dollars in which instead of legal tender, they provided services. They provided their time to help other people, babysitting, or all sorts of possibilities are thrown away. And this sort of thing fascinates me. Is this the type of community you're seeing, or do you see something altogether different, Bill?
No, I think that's a harbinger of the future. I guess I want to. The only place I would differ from Daniel Quinn on sort of the notion of walking away from systems and kind of creating something that's separate from that. I am more optimistic about the possibility of evolving and the metamorphosis of our existing system, and also convinced of the need to do that because of its dominant influence on global economy, global everything. And so there's a trend in our traditional systems that is, that's taking us down.
Mm-hmm.
And so dropping out of those systems, if you will, and creating your own pocket of self meeting your needs more directly, locally, is it's a part of it, and it's helping to point the way. But ultimately, we need for our systems to move out of the caterpillar stage, where their focus is on promoting consumption and growth and maximizing the accumulation of wealth, to realizing that they're vital organs in this grand living system we call the planet Earth, and that their job is contribute to the well-being of all life, which means they need to set out on kind of a lifelong journey to continually find ways to increase the consciousness and the caring and the commitment of all parts of their living system. So it shifts how we think about leadership. It shifts how we think about management. It's not about managing and motivating people that you have control over. It is about serving to create the context where all the people in the system are able to find their gifts and to maximize their contribution to their own well-being and to the well-being of all of the stakeholders that the organization serves.
This is so exciting to me. Let's keep peering through that future lens. Tell me some other things you see.
Well, I see cities becoming the pivotal unit of design in this great metamorphosis of our human systems. So you already have a number of cities on the planet that are saying we can't wait for the states or the national government or big business or science to save us. We need really to take responsibility for our own. And so there's lots of things cities are doing to promote localization, that they're doing to become more resilient, more able to withstand crises, whether it be flood or earthquakes or tsunamis or whatever, rising oceans, that cities need to take responsibility for that. And so what I see in the future is cities weaving together a network of collaboration, mm-hmm. where if one city finds a really effective way to bridge among their various human systems in the service of transforming education, for instance, that becomes part of the data, part of the information, part of the expertise that other cities on the planet learn from. I see cities linking together to have an influence on larger government bodies. I like the metaphor of finite and infinite games, where finite games are designed to have winners and losers, and infinite games are designed to keep the game in play. Finite games, you play within the boundaries, and infinite games, you play with the boundaries. Finite games are serious. Infinite games are playful. All of nature has evolved through these billions of years as a collection of literally millions of infinite games. Mm-hmm. And we humans have, because of our youth, because of our lack of maturity in systems design, are still kind of adolescent. And part of growing up is taking responsibility for your contribution to the whole. Mm-hmm. And so I see cities leading the way in developing their capacity to support their human systems, their associations, their governments, their educational institutions, etc., in becoming healthier, in becoming net contributors to the well-being of life. So one of the things that I picture is a complementary global phenomena. It's complementary to the Olympic Games. And so I visualize the infinite games. Mm. And it's not going to happen next year, but it could be happening by 2020 or 2025. And it is distinct from the Olympic Games, the wonderful Olympic Games. Olympic Games, it has to do with national pride and individual and team competition. In the Infinite Games, and it has to do with being the best in the world. In the Infinite Games, it has to do with cities, and it has to do with collaboration, co-creative collaboration, and it has to do with connectivity, with movement toward becoming ever more conscious, ever more caring, ever more capable of serving life.
I just a brief reference again to Quinn. He's of the opinion that we made a tragic mistake around 10,000 years ago when we went from a hunter-gatherer society to an agrarian society. And he seeks to demolish the image as hunter-gatherers necessarily. It's so over-romanticized now by people. You know, he said they weren't nobler than us or wiser or stronger. They were experts in living sustainably. And post-agricultural man isn't. And that's the thing. So I think our current consumerist mindset has brought us to the brink of spiritual, emotional, and physical depletion. With these infinite game players, do you see them as being happier, more fulfilled? What type of a person would an infinite game player be?
What type of person would an infinite game player be? Well, I use the acronym GRIP, Game Ready Infinite Player, and my experience is that there's an increasing number of people on the planet who really see that existing systems aren't working, that they're broken. So they have this realization that we can't keep on the way we're doing, but we don't know how to not keep on what we're doing. And so the game-ready infinite players are those people who, with some support, are ready to step up in a leadership role to help guide and architect and and make the kind of adjustments in their systems and in their lives and in their homes and in their communities, which move those systems toward becoming more conscious and more caring and more contributory. And the beautiful thing is that these systems that are moving in that direction are inherently promote joy.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the systems that are based on the mechanistic model of control over people and each people having their respective jobs are dependent on fear. And it may be a very subtle carrot and stick kind of fear, or it may be more drastic than that. But basically, it kind of snuffs out joy, and it snuffs out creativity. And so I'm deeply convinced, and all of my experience shows this, that folks who are healthy want to contribute. They love to co-create. They appreciate being in community. They love to support others, and they like being supported. And that activity of being a part of a very purposeful human system, whether it be a family or a community, a neighborhood, an industry, whatever, having a high purpose, being a part of contributing to the well-being of the whole, and working with people who are supporting you and really developing and giving your gifts, that's joy-inducing and fear-reducing.
Mm-hmm. I am, having studied it now for some 7 or 8 months, I am totally committed to this shift. And so much so that I'm willing to overcome whatever obstacles stand between me and achieving this. So I'm assuming people watching this are either of the same opinion or getting there. What obstacles are we going to have to overcome?
Who are the we?
Oh, we are the game-ready infinite players who want to establish this this beautiful alternative.
So what do game-ready infinite players who are in a system and they know that things can be better, what can they as individuals do? I guess it was Gandhi, wasn't it, who said, "Be the change you want to see in the world."
Yes.
That's certainly a piece of it. And so one powerful thing that everybody can do is to become more conscious of what's happening in your system that's moving in the right direction, and then to be very visible and rigorous in appreciating it. So one of the characteristics of these more mechanistic human systems is they're relatively devoid of appreciation. They tend to be focused on problems. So the conversations are about problem bosses, problem employees, problem suppliers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is something they've learned in school and developed to a fine skill over the years. And so something that the game-ready infinite player can do is to really get increasingly conscious around what's going on. Where do you see people that are doing things that show that they care, that they give a damn, that they're supporting others? And it's simply letting them know what you see and that you appreciate that. That's very simple. It's energizing, and it works. It's potent.
Yeah.
I think another is to connect, is to seek out other grips, other Game Ready Infinite players, other people and to support them in to seeing what you all might do to begin to raise consciousness in the organization. The imaginal cells story, which describes what goes on inside of a chrysalis as the caterpillar begins to dissolve itself and recreate itself. And the imaginal cells start to appear. Initially, they're killed off by the immune system, but they grow faster than the immune system can kill it off, and then they start to cluster and clump. And so it is with grips, the imaginal souls in an organization, to begin to cluster and clump, and not in the direction of protesting and basically creating polarity within the system, but in the direction of what needs to change in the system that the organization is willing to support, and how can I help them do that? And how can I help them do that in a way that is more empowering to people in the system? There's more and more material that's being written about what's happening in innovative organizations. So to reach out and do reading and connect with the people who are doing this breakthrough work is another avenue.
Okay, so you're right. It goes back to be the change you want to see happen, and the best thing to do is to go out and do it right,
and to appreciate it when you see it in others, because we need to move beyond the notion that it's about what individuals do and just the additive impact, but really begin to see the multiplicative effect of developing increasingly co-creative relationships with allies. And so the business of inquiring into the stories of other people and appreciating what they're doing, that really takes us in a direction of more systemic consciousness that not only tends to encourage more of that, but it also begins to build a bond of trust and mutual support. And so it's growing those relationships, the quality of those relationships, the quality of the organization's purpose, the quality of agreements. All of that is the kind of thing that individuals can do that contribute to movement.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the permanent cancellation of the power trip. What a vision that is. Okay, what else do you see through that future scenario lens?
Well, if you look at the picture, look at where we are right now, that even if we begin to have cities, or when we begin to have cities that are taking seriously their potential to change things for the cities, it's going to take a while before you turn this tanker around. And so, one thing that I intended to communicate with this picture is how crucial it is that we begin now, because we're still on a trend downward that isn't going to be reversed easily. And so small incremental changes to our current trajectory will never get us, will never turn us around. And so I'm seeing the need to act boldly and looking for where are the cities, and we're focusing in particular on the San Francisco Bay Area, which has some 100 towns and cities, to find out which one of those cities, or which one or two of those cities, are ready to go for it, because it's a serious commitment, and it's a joy-producing commitment for those people who participate.
Great. I'm out of questions. So please step in if there's something else you'd like to cover, and let me know what you want to do at this point.
I'm feeling fairly complete.
Okay.
At this moment, sir.
So we bring another episode of the Bill and Burt Show to a conclusion. We're going to have another stimulating discussion soon. So keep watching. Thank you so much, Bill. It was great talking with you.
You betcha, my brother.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.